You just said it, Jenna, with his stats for the last 4 games, the 9 points. They need Chris to be aggressive. And anytime that he's aggressive on the offensive end, they typically win those games. You think about when Devin Booker was out and he had to step up and get 25 and 30. He had the capability of doing that. For some reason in this series, he could not get it done, whether it was Dallas's defense, whether Dallas forcing him to have to guard and extend more energy than he's used to extending in a series. But it's Chris Paul's fault. He's the leader of the team. And the opportunity and the window is getting smaller for him. This was a perfect season for them when you think about they win 64 games. They got home court advantage. You got Game 7 on your home floor, and you lay an egg like they did. You're not going to get too many more opportunities. I know Chris is under contract for the next 3 years, but all 3 of their centers are going to be free agents. And the main center may leave. So they got decisions to make right there. They also got to improve. I like Campaign, and I know he's done a terrific job in improving this game. But they got to lessen Chris minutes. You got to cut down on some of the games that he played. I know Chris is a competitor. He loves to play. But I'm looking at he didn't have fresh legs. That's the only excuse that I can give him is that he didn't have the fresh legs that was necessary to be aggressive to complete this series out. He just, especially when you look at Game 7, they didn't have any energy. Not necessarily just him, but the whole team. But I blame Chris Paul because he's the engine that makes this offense go, whether he's scoring or assisting. But I think with this team, he needs to be more of a dominant offensive player, and he wasn't able to get that done with 35 points in only 4 games.
Listen, I understand a lot of this is going to fall on Chris Paul because this might be his last best chance. But that's not where I'm going to put it. Now, maybe it's because I'm a little biased, because Chris Paul and I have a lot of things, very unique things in common. We're both close personal friends with Lil Wayne. We're both a shade under 6'1". We're both exactly 37 years old. And Brew, while being a shade under 6'1", is a well above average height for an American male. It's tiny for an NBA player. And while being 37 years old is incredibly young to be America's most beloved sportscaster, it's incredibly old to be a starting point guard in the NBA playoffs. So Chris Paul has reasons for his lack of success here. You know who doesn't? Devin Booker. Devin Booker's mouth tried to cash a check that his play couldn't back up. And Devin Booker, keying and laughing with CP3 after Game 2 press conference, basketball gods looked at that and said, "We're monitoring you." And then Devin Booker, when he did a flop into a drawing a flagrant, into a turning like he's in a bad movie, looking at the camera and saying, "Luka's special," with a little wink. That moment right there, if it were a bad VH1 behind the music, that's where the music would change. And we would say, and it all changed from there. Because from that moment forward, a guy who was whining about, what does it take to get in the MVP conversation these days? A guy who finished 4th in MVP voting. The young, best player in his athletic prime, alleged superstar, whose Suns fans were whining to me that he didn't get into Club Superstar, but our admissions policy has never been better. Here's what he did the final 7 quarters of the series with, the 64-win Suns season on the line. He had 22 points on 22%, didn't hit a single 3, and had 11 turnovers. So, yeah, we can blame them both, considering the fact that Luka had more points, rebounds, assists than Devin Booker and Chris Paul combined over the final 2 games. But CP3 Brew has some excuses that are explanations. He's old and small. Devin Booker's got none of them. And Devin Booker was really feeling himself. Like Lucas said, everyone's chatting when they're winning, when they're ahead. They were never ahead the final 2 games, so Devin Booker ain't got nothing to say. This one, he's got to wear this one, bro.
Yeah, look, there's no doubt that Booker has a sizable chunk of the blame, Nick. And yesterday, statistically, he was even worse than Chris was. They both were bad, but he was worse. But I got to go with Twan. I think overall this is more on Chris Paul because he had 5 straight bad games. Now, we've seen Chris have bad moments in the playoffs. Remember back in 2014, Game 5, Oklahoma City.
Of course.
2 turnovers, last 14 seconds, fouls Westbrook on the 3, they lose. Game 7 against Utah, his last year with the Clippers. We've seen bad moments, bad games from him in the playoffs, but never a bad stretch or series like he had this time, unless he was injured. And so I almost was expecting some injury news to come out after the game. And it didn't. Maybe it will later. But Chris, if he just, Nick, has one good game, not great game, good game in the last 5, maybe they don't even get to a game 7. And Twan was right. Like, he's the leader of the team. He's their future Hall of Famer. He's the guy that turned the franchise around. And when the team comes out there and sees that he's kind of lifeless, that he's out of energy, that he's, doesn't have the spirit, that hits everybody. And I think that's what happened yesterday. And look, Twan mentioned the fresh legs or the lack thereof, Wilds. I think we saw in this series why only 2 small players in history, Steph Curry and Isaiah Thomas with Detroit. If you want to throw Gus Williams with Seattle 79, if he was the leader of that team, maybe.
I do.
But only a handful or a couple of guys, right, okay, 3 guys then, have led teams to championships. And it is because a small player can get worn down, whether it's over the course of the 82 and then the playoffs, whatever it is, he can get worn down. And Chris, I think, was mentally frustrated and physically worn down by Luka's size to the point where all-time great point guard defender, Wilds, and Jalen Brunson, who's his size, was taking him down low and posting him by the end of the series. So this is on Chris Paul more than me, Wilds.
I agree. I mean, Game 6 was on Thursday. It had all Friday, all Saturday, basically all Sunday to play. So I just don't buy the worn down or he didn't have enough rest. Here's the thing, Nick. There's a meme. It might be an Onion article. It says, the worst person you know made a good point. And it jokes around about being in a tough spot if that happens. Yeah. I feel the opposite. The person that I want to succeed the most, that I want to give credit for, that I want to win a championship, just kind of blew it. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, last year when the Suns went to the finals, remember Chris had his whole family up there? It was just getting to the finals. He's like, and he was thanking Billy Crystal, like it's during his Clippers tenure. It was just such a nice moment. And I know Chris just said, like, we'll be back next year. This, they always say it's your best chance. Like, this was your best chance. You set the franchise record in Phoenix.
Yeah.
DeAndre Ayton's there. He might not be there. Devin Booker's ascendant. Monty Williams is the coach of the year. You went out of 1,300 games you've ever played. Your plus-minus was minus 39. It's the worst of your career. Chris Paul took 4 free throws in the last 5 games. So I'm just in a tough spot. There's nothing I wanted more than Chris Paul to be even increase his legacy. And now I'm worried that his legacy's going in reverse. Yeah. I know you say legacies can't go in reverse. But if they were...
No, not at this age.
Chris Paul seems to be applying for it.
No. It's not
close,
It's
man.
not going in reverse. And I know exactly what you mean about the meme, the worst person you know just made a good point. It's exactly how I feel. The once a month Wild says something, I'm like, damn, hadn't thought of that. It's like, I hate when that happens. But Antoine, the thing I said it earlier, the basketball gods did not smile upon what Devin Booker said. Let's not act like Chris Paul wasn't one of those people kikiing alongside with Devin after Game 2. And let's not act like Chris Paul after Game 1 didn't compare Luka Doncic to Theo Pinson. The Suns might have been better off with Theo Pinson if he could switch teams. Give him a few minutes. I'll tell you this much. Theo Pinson made as many first-half shots as Chris Paul and Devin Booker combined in a Game 7. That ain't great, and they all got to wear it.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.